Lynn Henderson, speaking on behalf of the People's Assembly. Lynn is also Scottish Secretary of PCS, which I mentioned, and I'd actually made a contribution on. Thank you.
Thanks very much. It's a real pleasure to come here today and speak to you here in your community about the People's Assembly and also about the Trade Union Bill. I'm the Vice Chair of the People's Assembly in Scotland, so I bring solidarity greetings from Phil McGarry of the RMT Union, who is our Chair, who can't be here today, and I'm here in his place. I think I just want to spend a wee minute for anyone who doesn't know about the People's Assembly explaining what we are and what we do, and then a wee bit of time about the Trade Union Bill and a perspective from my trade union, which is the Public and Commercial Services Union, representing civil servants and public servants who work for the government. So the People's Assembly is a broad national campaign against austerity, and we work across political divides, across political parties, and in Scotland we work across the old independence divide of the yes-no campaigns, and we try and unite everyone around that focus to fight together against austerity. We aspire to coordinate action against austerity, whether that be trade union, industrial action, or whether that be community protests and power and whatnot organising. We have support across trade unions in Scotland, and a number of people here today that I know are involved in the People's Assembly at the Scottish level and also locally. We're building local People's Assemblies across communities, and we intend to carry that fight forward in unity and together, regardless of any differences on any individual issues. We are the People's Assembly against austerity. So what are we for? We know what we're against. What are we for as the People's Assembly? We're for a fairer economy. Who could argue with that against the bankers' economy that we see in the UK at the moment? We are for more and better jobs, and we have alternative views about how we build jobs. We're for higher standards of homes for all, including council housing, and we are for improved public services. We want to protect the public services that we have, but we also recognise that many of our public services, what they do and how they do it, needs to be improved. Fairness and justice, who could disagree with that? And what we mean by that are things like wages, things like trade union organisation in the workplace, secure and sustainable future, including scrapping Trident. We're a massive network across Scotland. We're an even bigger network across parts of England and Wales, and we're trying to get a People's Assembly up and running in Northern Ireland as well. We're supported by all these organisations that I've listed. Most importantly, we're supported by community activists and people that are involved on a day-to-day level in community organisations. And we vehemently, the word I can't say very well, oppose the Trade Union Bill as a People's Assembly Scotland and as a People's Assembly movement, because we recognise the rank hypocrisy of this Tory government introducing a bill that seeks to attack the organised working class in their workplaces. It's an ideological assault. It's not about anything other than to try and stop us organising workers, and we need to be absolutely clear about that. We also need to be absolutely clear that an attack on the trade union movement is an attack on society, an attack on democracy, and Jackson outlined some of the arguments about the attacks on human rights. I think are very well placed. As a movement, Jackson's right, we can talk to ourselves in rooms like this till we're blue in the face, but out there we need to not just explain to people why they need to oppose the Trade Union Bill, but what trade unions are and what they do, and especially younger people, the generation coming up after us who aren't unionised in the main, who aren't organised in their work, and aren't even aware of the values of having collective organisation in the workplace. We've got to take that in a two-pronged basis, and the People's Assembly is committed to do what we can as a movement to do that. So yes, we agree we need to kill the bill, but we also need to be aware that you have a Tory majority in Westminster that is likely to vote it through. So we're killing it, and we've had
34% of the vote.
on 34% of the vote, but they are the government of the day, and they're sitting in Westminster and they're going to vote it through. There's been, the minor concession around the stupidity of the social media clause, where trade unionists were having to tell their employers 2 weeks in advance what their members were going to put on Facebook or Twitter and stuff like that. I mean, I wish I knew what my members, I wish I could control what some of my members put on Facebook and Twitter at times. So, that was just always unworkable, and they've let that one go, but that's minor. The main planks of the bill will go through, and we are likely to be facing opposition to it, yes, but we're going to have to defy it and work against it once it's gone through Parliament. And I don't want to sound defeatist there, I'm just trying to say that this fight goes on beyond what's voted on down in Westminster. My union has been facing many of the elements of the trade union bill in the civil service, because last year, 2 years ago, the Tory Liberal government, as was then, decided that they would take away check-off, which is the way that we collect our members' dues through the employer. And they would take away, 3 years ago, our right to facility time, when our reps got time off from their job to do their basic trade union duties. They've reduced that to a very minimal amount across civil service departments. Mostly the Tory departments, with the most hard right-wing ministers leading them, like Francis Maud, Eric Pickles and so on. And we as a trade union had to battle to get our members and our reps to attend meetings in the workplace where they said, no, you're not even getting a room to meet in, you have to have the union meetings out in the car park. And that's what we do in many of our workplaces now. And we have had to battle when the employer has demanded to meet with our reps, and we said they can't come because they've not got time to leave their jobs to come in. And the employers across civil service departments say, this is ridiculous. This is what the government is imposing on you. So we're finding it difficult to work in partnership around basic things because we've taken that off our reps, and we're battling against that. What it means is our reps are even more committed to looking after their members in their own time, out of hours, at nights, weekends, and we're battling with that as well. What it means is our members and our reps are actually even more angry and even more militant than they were about what's going on in the workplace. And what it means is our reps are spending more time in the workplace and not sitting in meetings with management, and they're finding out what the issues are on the ground. So we are tackling the trade union bill face on, we oppose it, but we are living in the reality that's yet to come to other people, what you do in a world when you have a hostile employer, and our hostile employer is the UK government at the moment. And we agree with the demand on local authorities that they to defy the trade union bill. We're glad that demand is growing. One of our employers is also the Scottish Government, and our members working in the Scottish Government are making the same demand of the administration there, and indeed the Scottish Parliament, where my members work as well. Wouldn't it be great if the Scottish Parliament could say that they are defying the trade union bill? We hope to see that day, very, very soon. Another element is the removal of the check-off in the union dues. This was taken away from our members 2 years ago. PCS has fought that battle. We have taken to our workplaces and signed over already in the last 2 years, 75% of our members are already now signed over to direct debit rather than the employer's check-off. And that's taken a lot of work. That's mean officials, reps have spent more time in the workplace with members, yes, asking them to sign over and set up a direct debit to be part of the union. But what we have picked up as part of that is knowledge of what's going on the ground, what people's issues are, and we are representing our members far more thoroughly as a result. So it's hard work and it's a slog, but we are determined that our union will survive whatever the Tories are throwing our way. We've emerged out of that. We are less dependent on any employer, whether they are the UK government or whether it's the Scottish Government at the moment, is saying that they haven't taken away the check-off facilities. We still don't want to be beholden to any government or any employer who, at any time we take industrial action, could withdraw the check-off anyway. In terms of balloting, my union is well known as an industrial and active union that regularly takes part in strike action around the country. And we have our last 3 ballots, which were the National Gallery in London, where we had people on strike for over 100 days, where one of our reps was sacked. We got her reinstated for 100 days action. That ballot turnout was a good, strong figure, and it would have survived the Tory attacks on our ballot level. The second one, Universal Credit Workers here in Glasgow and Bolton, in the summer took 2 days industrial action, again a high turnout in that ballot. And the third one, the National Museums of Scotland, which is a live dispute. We had 7 days action in Edinburgh during the festival, and it's ongoing against the Scottish Government's withdrawal of the weekend working allowance. Yet again, our members voted en masse. And on that picket line, the Tories want to restrict the number of people that can go on picket lines. 120 workers on strike in the National Museums of Scotland, 70 of them on the picket line throughout the festival, with their guitars, with their babies, having a good time. And I think that's what we need to say. My General Secretary has said, if this bill goes through, the very first strike that takes place, we should all go to the picket lines, defy the law and be there in solidarity with the workers that are on strike. So I will close on that note. We need to oppose the bill, we need to defy it, and we need to actively unite against it. I'm delighted again to be here. I think everyone here today, the one thing we can do when we leave is speak to people that aren't in unions, get to join a union, and speak to our neighbours and our friends about what the trade union is and build our movement. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Lynn. As you've heard, the PCS is clearly the focus of attack from the Tory government, and I'm sure we'll express our solidarity with the PCS members in their struggles. Lynn also made a very important point about uniting the forces that can combat the Tory government. We've been through the referendum, and certainly some of us found it pretty divisive within the trade union movement. But we want to ensure that all forces, be if you voted yes, you voted no, that we all can unite against the austerity that the other classes face. So thanks very much, Lynn.